I was born 93 years ago at 1410 Pettibone Street on the south end of Flint. My folks lived there for a number of years. My dad was a builder. He built the house, and he sold it. And over time, he moved out on Miller Road, and I lived out there, and we had a nice time. My folks had 10 kids, and I was about the middle one of the 10. Went to a little school close by, a couple of blocks or so. Crocker School on the corner of Linden Road and Bristol Road. And after the 8th grade, I was one of the heroes at that small school because I could play soccer real good. Felt great. But when I went to high school, that was a different story in Swartz Creek where they had lots of kids. And to get to Swartz Creek, I used my thumb, caught a ride on Miller Road. When I was young, maybe I was 5, 6, 7 years old or so, I remember the Depression. And my dad couldn't find enough jobs. He couldn't find enough work, so he had to go on the WPA. At the time, it was Work Progress Program or something, a federal program. And he ended up pushing a shovel, cleaning the streets with about 20 other guys. So we were poor. We were poor growing up, but there was a lot of love in the family. My oldest brother was Ronald, and my next oldest was Raymond. And they were from a different mother than I had, but the same father, because the mother died after the birth of those two. And then came Ruby, and then Emerald, and Pearl, and Dallas, and me, and Bethel, and let's see, Burl, Bethel, and Junior, Ernest Jr. I think that's the right number. When I hit 18, I knew I was going to be inducted because that was the law. And I didn't want to go to Canada, see if I could escape it. So I did my thing and went down to Detroit to find out what it was all about. I had a choice. I could go and talk with any of them. So I went to the Navy, talked with them. They said, yep, you're healthy enough, we'll take you. So I was inducted in the Navy and went to San Francisco and was assigned to a destroyer. And I was on a destroyer for about 6 months in the Southwest Pacific. It was a minesweeper. Shortly after 6 months out in the Pacific, they gave me an opportunity to go to trade school. And so I went to an electrical interior communications school in Ames, Iowa for 6 months. And then at West Virginia for 6 more months. And then up to Washington, D.C. for 6 more months. The last 6 months or so, Marion was able to be with me, and we had living quarters off base and enjoyed it a lot. But and I got my discharge and come home.
Can you talk to me a little bit about how you met Grandma?
Yes, her church. She went to a Methodist church in the north end of Flint, and our minister had invited their choir out to our church. And they had a choir of about 15 young kids. One of the girls in the choir was pretty attractive, and she had a very nice voice. She, in fact, sang 2 solos during the program. And so before they left, I met her out at the door and said, I want to meet you. And that was fine. So I said, would you go ice skating with me? And she said, yeah. So we went ice skating. And she didn't know how to ice skate, so I helped her along and kept her off the ice most of the time. And we did that a few times, and went to hymn sings at the First Nazarene Church. I'd date her, and she'd go with me to the hymn sings, and that was fine. And I met her parents, and she met my parents. And long story short, within 2 years, we were married. After a couple of years, she bore Carolyn, and then actually about every 2 years we had another one, and we had a good life, and our kids were all perfect. Let's see, there must have been a few goofy things. The toughest one was trying to raise our daughter called Kathy. Oh, here she is. I can't say that. We were thrilled with our kids. It was a joy. Always been a joy. Being a builder, I had an opportunity to learn something about the carpentry trade, and I appreciated that. When I met Marion and we were married, we had an opportunity to move in this apartment upstairs above my folks for a while. And after a bit of time, maybe 6 months, I bought a piece of property down near the creek, which was on a side road close within about 6 blocks of my folks' house. So I'd walk down there and after work and work on the house. I actually laid the blocks and dug the footings and all this. And Marion actually helped me as I was working on it. Believe it or not, she ran a scoop while I pulled it with a horse. My dad was aging, and so learning the carpentry business, I had a great opportunity. And when he was 70 years old, he retired, and I bought his business. I think I paid like $30,000 or something over time for his interest. So I worked on a Pilgrim Holiness church on the east side where I knew some people, and they hired me to design and build an addition to their church. And from there, it moved on up. I got a Nazarene church where we worship on Dye Road, built that, built others. All in all, within about a 15-year period, I built about close to 300 churches. So that was fun. And after, when I was 50, I think it was, I decided it was time for me to cut loose. Of course, pretty soon, like when we were going to Florida and so on, our kids had grown and we had retired, and they were on their own, married, a lot of them. So after their marriages and Marion and I were retired, we traveled quite a bit that way too. To and from Florida. We built a house in Florida on Lake Sebring. Built a second house not far from there and sold it. And we just had fun. Always had fun. I never had any great disappointments except, when there was the death in the family. Carolyn passed away, and she had diabetes since she was a teenager. And that was a hard thing. And then when Marion passed away, it was very hard. It was a healing. It took years to heal. You do heal. I lived for her. It was such a good marriage. And she was smarter than I was. She always was an A student, and I was just an average student. She always got top grades, and that impressed me a lot. And so she had a lot of wisdom, and she was my source of strength. The last 2 years of her life, she became ill, and that was very difficult. It was very difficult. She was actually bedridden for, I think, about 2 years, wasn't it? I can't see. About 1 year she was bedridden, and even didn't recognize us. But just before she passed away, she opened her eyes and says, "My Dale." And she was gone. I love it when there's harmony in the family, and how to achieve that. Every family has to find their own way. Some people are better at it than others. And I think Marion and I did a good job. It seems to me that kindness, but yet rules that are firm. There are certain rules that are important. Anyway, I always wanted the kids to be good guys and raise their kids that way. And I'm proud of all of us, all of you.
You're a very optimistic person.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, I think it's mostly my faith, my good health. If I was an ill person, half of the time, I don't know if I'd be that optimistic. But I've always been healthy. And I've appreciated it, and I thank the Lord a lot. My parents were optimists. And we pick a lot from our parents, and I always said, "Lord, I'm blessed. Help me to have self-confidence. I don't want to be arrogant. I want to be humble, but I want to have self-confidence." And my family has helped me to be self-confident, I think they'd kick me in the pants if I weren't. If I come around grumpy, but I don't want. I wake up in the morning and I say, "Thank you, Lord."
What do you feel like you've been able to pass along down the road to the whole gang?
I hope my optimism, a little humility, and self-confidence, and faith. I'd like to live my faith so they can see that I'm genuine. And when they shut the lid down, I want to say, "Bye, guys," with a smile.